What does it take to go from an investor to a CEO? This is a topic we are going to be covering today with Grace GudenKauf, who's going to be joining us today. I am so excited to have her on. I originally met her at the Invested Meetup earlier this year, and she blew my mind. All right, Grace, I'm going to go ahead and add you in. Let's see. Here we are. Hello.
Hi, Miranda. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. I'm excited. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I'm so excited to have you on. I was just saying that when we originally met at Invested, you blew my mind with everything you went over. So I'm so excited to
Oh,
get you on today and just pick your brain even more.
I can't wait. One thing about me is I love to talk about systems and CEO, so I'm excited.
Yes. And then, really quick, I just want to say again, congratulations are in order.
Thank you.
Well, do you want to get started both telling us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in real estate?
Yeah, my name's Grace GudenKauf. I'm from Eastern Iowa, born and raised there, invest my entire portfolio there, and I got started just like so many other people, super scrappy, DIY, doing everything. Um, I fell into a situation during COVID where I had a chance to quit my job. I was absolutely not making the money that I needed to be making, but I knew I had the chance to pursue real estate, so I did. So I quit like 6 months into starting real estate, which is crazy looking back on it, but it worked out.
Wow.
Yep. And then I also started WIIRE, Women Invest in Real Estate at the same time, just as a way for me to find other people, other women who invested. Never thought it would be a business. Fast forward 3 years, 4 years, I've built a team. I now live in Tucson, Arizona, where I invest long distance. I have two full-time employees on my real estate side. We've got one full-time on WIIRE and a couple other part-time. And yeah, I do a lot of flipping, midterms, long terms, and everything that I own is within a 15-minute radius. So I'm very focused in one area.
Wow, that's incredible.
Ye-
And
Yes.
at what point in your portfolio did you start realizing you had to start making a change?
I was so scrappy, do everything, don't pay for anything, focus on buying, buying, buying. And then about 2 years in, I realized I had a big old bookkeeping mess on my hands. And that was like the first thing that was like, hey, like maybe you should figure this out and figure out how to run a business. And so I dove into it and I can talk more about it, but in summary, it took over a year and $8,500 and actually, I think three different bookkeepers to get my bookkeeping sorted out because I had scaled so quickly. And that was the first time that I was like, okay, there's a lot of things that I'm not doing that I need to be doing. Let's dig into that a little bit more.
Mhm. Wow. And then from there, you thrived. And
I
then you
mean,
created another business.
from there, I was like, holy crap. How, how did I get here? I did all the things. I bought all the properties. I learned all the strategies. Why did I just blow nearly 10 grand figuring out something that nobody teaches? And
Mhm.
that's what made me realize, okay, like there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that nobody teaches and nobody does
Mhm.
that help you become the CEO of your business. I always teach that you're the CEO of your business. You might also be the cleaner and the bookkeeper and the manager, but every single person here who owns real estate is the CEO of their business, whether they realize it or not. So, I slowly started to step into that and realize, there's 5 or 6 key things that people don't do. And I just figured it out through trial and error.
Okay. And so you had no resources to turn to when you were figuring this all out, or what was kind of your go-to?
I was a sponge. I mean, I didn't learn how to be the CEO of my business from anybody, but I was always reading. I was always listening to podcasts. Instagram is a massive source for knowledge. I was reading what were people doing? How were they? I was asking questions. Hey, so and so, how did you do X, Y, and Z? How did you manage your private money lenders on X, Y, and Z? and I was taking that and just really absorbing it. And I think one of my zones of genius is that I'm really good at developing frameworks and like curriculums, and I can see things in a very organized way. And I started in my head to be like, okay, these are the things that I need to do to run my business. And over a couple of years, they started to, get better and better. I'm not perfect. I'm still learning every day. But yeah, it was just through trial and error and constant reiteration and being a sponge.
I love that. And you mentioned that you've always been an organized person. And do you feel like, I mean, obviously that's helped you kind of create all of this, but do you think anybody can do this, or do they have to be like very, very organized and already have that skill set?
I do not think that you have to be organized. And what you'll find out is that when you do get organized and start to write SOPs and have these quick guides, which is a term that I coined just to organize your critical business information, you start to get addicted and create a dopamine loop of, wow, that organization helped me skip out on a bunch of busy work. And now I get to do this thing that makes me more money. Okay, I want to keep organizing. And we can get into like, what do you actually need to organize and how? I don't want to be fluffy, but I really think it's so hard to start, but once you get into it, you start to realize, okay, this is addicting because it's propelling my business forward, even though on the surface, it might not seem like a topic that would propel your business forward.
Okay. And because I know, a lot of investors who have a few properties, they're wearing all the hats, they're doing it all themselves, and a lot of them have either hired a VA first or hired a bookkeeper first. So I guess starting from the beginning, let's start with where do people start and how do they know when to start?
Yes, when it comes to like delegating or hiring so that you can become the CEO of your business, it really is one step at a time. Before that, the first thing I would do is organize your Google Drive and get a few key quick guides in place, like organizing your list of properties, your insurance policies, your utility information, um, and any lending information. And then get your Google Drive organized. There's like 6 key folders you should have. You should have a CEO folder for tax, legal, EINs, all of that. You should have a property folder. In that property folder, for each property should have the same folders: insurance, closing documents, rental documents, rehab documents. You should also have a full-on bookkeeping folder, a project management, and a property management. That's what I have. Once you start to like get all that business information in the right place, because I also want to back up a step. If you hire someone and you're just like, look at my shit show, I don't know what to do or where any information is, that's really hard, and you can have somebody help you figure that out. But I would recommend you do a little bit of that prep work before you hire someone. And then I would say, once you get that finished, you really need to look at, where do you make money in your business? Where's your zone of genius? Are you really good at property management? Are you really good at raising money or finding deals? And lean into that and delegate the other things that you do in your business that you're not really good at. And those things are probably also the things that you don't like.
Mm-hmm. And so that probably makes sense as to why a lot of people turn to bookkeeping.
Yes.
That's like their first hire.
But
I've yet to find someone who likes to bookkeep. So.
yeah, bookkeeping is an incredible first hire. I think that once you get above just super rough rule of thumb, like 3 to 5 properties, you should absolutely have a bookkeeper, because it's better to pay for it a couple projects before you really truly need it than be like me, where I had like 17 properties, 17 rehabs, 4 different LLCs
Mm-hmm.
before I was like, oh, I should get set up on QuickBooks and figure this.
I can hear you. There you are. I think I hear you now.
That was my social media timer
Oh.
telling me to get off social media. um, but about bookkeeping, you don't want to be like me and do it when it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
And bookkeeping never stops. So then you have your mess and it only keeps growing because every month your bookkeeping needs to be done. So do it sooner than later. Hire a great bookkeeper who can help you figure out where you're
Mm-hmm.
profitable, and you will get a return on investment.
Okay. And you said, and then organize your 6 folders in Google Drive. Now, as you were kind of creating all of this from scratch, what do you feel like was like the biggest challenge you faced?
The biggest challenge is making those micro decisions every single day to focus on running the business, sorry, working on the business and running it rather than working in it. When people ask like how do you become CEO, how do you get out of it? It's a lot of really small decisions and following the boundaries and the goals that you have. For example, if you do hire a VA, and every single day when there's that task that could take you 2 minutes, but it would take you 20 minutes to tell the VA, but then you'd never have to do it again because they learned. It's committing to saying, no, I'm not just going to do the 2 minutes. I'm going to write the SOP. I'm going to record the video. I'm going to train them and forever delegate this. So it's all
Mhm.
those micro decisions of sticking to, I'm going to outsource. I'm going to stay organized. I'm going to focus on what I'm good at.
Okay. And I know a lot of people, I mean, it's incredible that you did all of this without having someone to kind of guide you and you're just guiding yourself. But for the people, one, we're really lucky to have you now, but also I know there's still got to be some struggle with that internal, voice in your head. What was kind of did you have to have like a mental shift to go through this process, or were you just already a boss?
No, totally had to have a mental shift. I mean, I grew up where it was like, do everything yourself. Don't ever pay for an oil change. Don't ever pay for someone to come clean your house or do your lawn care because you can do it all and you should do it all. So there's definitely a huge mental shift. I think I had a little bit of a cheat code in the fact that I physically moved from my portfolio all the way to Arizona. And so I had to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
There was no, I'm going to show up tomorrow and clean my property. I live 1,500 miles away. I cannot do that.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
That
That's incredible.
that certainly helped.
Yeah.
I removed the decision making, and that helped me figure it out real quickly.
And I guess like when you're looking at like the skill set, what if somebody was an organizer, what if you had to name one skill set someone needed to be able to accomplish all of this, what would it be?
Uh, that is a good question. I think a great skill set is to be able to zoom out of the day to day and look at the bigger picture and figure out where you're going. I think so many of us investors put our heads down, we buy, and we wake up and we're like, wait, I quit my 40-hour a week job and now I have a 60-hour a week job and I can't get away and it's a mess and it's stressful.
Mhm.
So to have the skill set to be able to look at the bigger picture and really be intentional and have goals is huge. It sounds fluffy, but it makes such a big difference.
Okay. And Bree asked in the comments too, are you going to continue investing in the primary market only or expand outside?
Right now, I'm going to do my primary market because I've developed brand recognition and really good, um, a really good relationships there. Yesterday, my project manager was saying that he was getting his oil changed and he had to give his email out loud. And his email is our company name. And somebody in the waiting room was like, "Oh my God, Good Morning Investments! Like I know them." I've worked with them, and I was just like, oh my God, that's so crazy. So I'm really focused on going really, really deep in one market and
Mhm.
being the big fish in a small pond
Mhm.
rather than diversifying. That's not to say if there's an opportunity that falls into my lap that I won't diversify. I'm just not necessarily looking.
Okay. And I know you said you had 2 people on your team. So one's a bookkeeper. Who's the other one?
So I have a full-time maintenance person and I have a full-time project manager.
Okay.
I've also hired out, bookkeeping, attorney, cleaner, all of those good people as well.
Okay. Got it. And I guess which one was first, the project manager or?
Project manager was first,
Okay.
and that was so crazy for me to hire my first employee. I still wake up some days and I'm like, that's so weird that like I am a boss. Like what? That's who allowed that to happen? But my thinking, and I think this is a really interesting mindset shift that you were asking about earlier, was I didn't think, let's say that your business makes $100,000 a year and you're looking at hiring somebody for 50,000. My thinking was not, okay, I'm going to go from 100,000 a year to 50 because it costs me 50 to hire somebody. My thinking was, I'm going to spend 50 to go from 100 to 200 or 300. I was thinking forward momentum, forward leverage, rather than what I'm currently making minus the cost of this person is what I'm going to be left with. And I think that's a big shift, because a lot of people probably think if I hire somebody at 50K a year, that means I have to be making X amount a year. That's not true.
Right.
You do need to be financially stable, because you're providing for somebody's income, primary income source, and that's an incredible responsibility. But you don't have to have their whole salary saved to hire somebody. I think as long as you have 3 to 6 months of your business expenses or future business expenses, you can, in a good plan, you can hire somebody. You do not need to wait until you're making at least that person's salary. You can use them as leverage to get to that next level of income.
Wow. I mean, that's a huge golden nugget right there. Wow. Because I didn't even, I feel like that was my mindset. Okay, I'm only going to be making
No,
50,000. But
yeah.
no, you're,
Yeah.
you're 10xing your efficiency
It
by hiring
seems
out.
it seems so simple, but most of us, me included, think that way.
Mm-hmm.
We think backwards, like division instead of
Yeah.
multiplication.
And I'm so happy you touched on that too, that you don't have to have all of it saved up, because I feel like I'm the person who would like literally need it all saved up before I hired
And
out.
yeah, I don't obviously want anybody to get in a situation where they can't truly afford. And that's where your
Right.
bookkeeping comes in. If you have great bookkeeping and a great CPA, they can
Mm-hmm.
help you understand, what is my true business cash flow? What is my business savings? What do I need to have put aside for a rainy day? And
Mm-hmm.
that will help you.
I love that. And you said about 3 to 6 months for a rainy day?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Just like a personal emergency fund. I'm a big believer in also personal finances. I think everybody should have 3 to 6 months of what it costs them to live their life every month in a high yield savings account set aside, and
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't get touched except for emergencies.
Love that. And we have another question. She asked, besides being very organized, what other factors would you say has helped you when scaling up quickly?
Okay, one other quick tip that also seems simple, and it is simple on the surface, but is so powerful, is calendar stacking. How many of you, every time a bill comes to your email, you stop what you're doing and you pay the bill? Because for me, like, I hate having unread emails. Like, I want to get back to everybody. I want to be on top of things. Instead of doing that, create a folder system in your email. Make one of them bills to pay. And once a week, sit down and pay all the bills that pile up in that folder.
Mm-hmm.
And then you don't have to think and stress about, oh my God, I have 3 bills I need to pay today, but I don't want to do it. I don't want to get logged into my bill pay, and it's so much more efficient. You can do the same thing for property management, for acquisitions. You can do the same thing for project management. It applies no matter what you're in, but start to slowly calendar stack. One thing that I do is with WIIRE, it's Monday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. With my real estate, Good Morning Investments, it's Tuesdays and Fridays. I really try to only work on one during that day,
Mm-hmm.
because what I used to do is I'd flip back and forth 100 times from one email to the other and do this and do that. And you're constantly turning on and shutting off a different part of your brain, and that's exhausting. Instead, let's batch it all so that you can get into the mindset that you need to do this task just once a week, or maybe even once a day. Start with once a day.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. Everything you're dropping is just golden nugget after
Yeah.
golden nugget.
Pick one, if you're listening, pick one thing. I think paying bills is a great one. And then the other thing that's helpful is then all your contractors start to get trained. Oh, I got to get my invoices in by Monday because bills get paid Tuesday. I send it on Wednesday, it's not getting paid till next Tuesday.
Mm,
And I've had plenty of contractors be like, "Hey, is this getting paid? Is this getting paid?" And I stick to my boundaries, like we were talking about earlier. It's those micro decisions that build up and say, "I paid bills Tuesday. I'm not willing to pay this on Friday." If it's a new contractor, I'll pay it usually, and I'll tell them moving forward it's this day.
mhm.
But it really helps streamline the rest of your business. Now you've decided that this is what's happening, and everybody else is starting to play into that and to allow that streamlined activity to flow into their business as well.
I love that. Have you found that certain people you work with don't like the flow, and do those people just tend to like fizzle out, or have you had them leave or be fired?
I have had, I find everybody gets decision fatigue. And I'm really big about this. So if you go to somebody and you say, I'll hire you and it's going to look like XYZ, bill gets paid this date. This is how it gets paid, and this is the timeline. A lot of times it's so much easier for them to just say yes or no instead of they have to come up with all of that. What is it? When does it get paid? How do we communicate? So I find when you can just make somebody's decision yes or no, it's so much easier for them to fit into your workflow. So now we have like a contractor agreement and it says, here's all the things. You got to give us your W-9. You got to send invoices to this email. Invoices are paid on this date. So they know that is what's happening. Do I want to agree to it or not?
Okay.
And I've
Yes.
I've really
Setting
never
boundaries.
had issues. I've never had somebody say no. Of course, if we've got a huge GC who's it's a $50,000 job and they've got to have 10 grand to get started, there are of course exceptions.
Hmm.
But for the most part, for all of my subs, that is the workflow.
Okay. And when you're starting to look at your team members and kind of start building, are there any like red flags or just straight up if something pops up, you're just like, no, and you keep moving on? What are those icks, I guess, for you?
I am somebody who I want to throw you in and I want you to figure out what you don't know. And then come back to me and then we figure it out. I am not somebody who's going to try to do it perfectly the first time. I'd rather you go, you mess it up, you come back and you say, this is the things that I'm missing to do, that I need to do my job.
Hmm.
So I really look for people who are self starters and who figure stuff out. If I have to be micromanaging you, I do not want a part of it. That is an ick for me. I don't want to work with people who are like that. I am very hands off manager. I want you to do your job and let me know when you need help and I will help you. So for me, that is definitely the style of work that I'm into. I think it's also because I'm remote. I can't micromanage you. I don't
Hmm.
want to be on Zoom 8 hours a day, but I really want somebody who's a self-starter and is gonna figure it out and go a little bit above and beyond to figure out new solutions. And the other
Okay.
thing I'll add, and this does not relate to your question, but just another nugget if you're going to be hiring anybody, give bonus opportunities to incentivize people to go above and beyond. I think we're past the day and age where we can expect people to go above and beyond for their corporate job without anything in return.
Hmm. I love that. And so I guess so those are the things that you look out for when you're building your team. Now, what about the investor itself? What common mistakes or do you see people making when they're trying to transition from investor to CEO?
Well, number one, without even transitioning, so many of us investors are flipping or buying rentals that straight up aren't profitable because we're just focused on buying, not running our business. And when you figure out your bookkeeping, there's this book called Profit First by David Richter. Incredible book. I've literally read it 4 times. Like every 6 months, I read it because I'm like, okay, I need to come back to these basics. There's so many people who build giant flipping machines who realize, oh shit, I'm not profitable and I'm doing 100 flips a year. What if I fired everybody, did one flip with nobody on my payroll? I'd make more money than this 100 flip a year business I have that's not profitable. So that is a huge mistake. You got to be profitable. You got to make sure you're not just digging yourself further and further in the
Hmm.
hole. But as far as becoming CEO, I think you're going to make mistakes. Everyone's going to make mistakes. When I went from investor to CEO, it wasn't like this. It was like I hired and then that failed and then I did this and it failed and it was a slow trajectory. I hired somebody who showed up for 2 days and then literally never spoke a word to me again. And I was like, what did I do? But I learned, I moved on and I kept going.
I love that. And you're setting, and I love that you're setting like boundaries in your business, but also because I feel like boundaries are good for your personal life, but it's like you've set such good boundaries that it's going to help filter through people faster too. Because if someone doesn't like what you're doing or doesn't like the process, they're just going to leave and they're not going to talk to you again. But I'd rather have that happen sooner rather than later, right? Not 6 months after you've done all the training and stuff. And I know you said you like people to kind of hit the ground running, but realistically, like how much time do you give them?
So I think if you hire okay, this is the biggest mistake. When you hire someone, and I did this, you've got to train them so well. You need to be meeting with them every single day, probably twice a day, for at least 2 to 4 weeks. This is the same whether it's a VA or that's doing 5 hours a week or a full-time person. Because the biggest mistake you can do is you hire somebody and then you don't invest in their training and then they just kind of fizzle out until you're like, well, this isn't really working and now I got to fire you, or we just slowly stop working together.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been there, I've done that, and now learned from it.
All right, because I feel like I always hear the term like hire slow, fire
Yes.
fast. Do you agree with that term?
Yeah, I do. I think if you wait, and I was talking to an investor about this the other day, until you're just trying to get people on board to fill all the holes in your to plug all the holes in your business because you're drowning, you're going to make really bad business decisions. The next person I hire will be doing a personality test. We'll be doing multiple interviews. I will meet them in person. Like there's so much more I've learned that I need, but I could never have figured that out unless I hired somebody. Like you can't learn that. You can Google that kind of, but you just have to go try it, know that you're probably going to fail, and keep pivoting.
Okay. And so I guess, and okay, I had a really good question and it just went out of my mind.
Yeah.
I hate when that happens. Okay, I wish I wrote it down, but it's okay.
It'll come
Oh,
back.
here's what I have to ask. How do you know, so when you're training someone and things just aren't clicking or something's not working, like how do you know it's them versus you?
Oh, that is a great question. Two things. One, this is where you have to have SOPs that outline exactly what needs to happen. You don't want anything in the gray area. Because when it's in the gray area, it's hard to know, was it me miscommunicating or was it you not doing your job?
Mhm.
When it's written down and this is exactly what you need to do, there's no gray area. It is, you were supposed to do this and you didn't. Simple as that. When you realize that, and then the second piece of that is constant check-ins and I'm brain farting on the word, but like a quarterly check-in or a monthly check-in to being like, hey, actually, I really prefer this type of style of communication, or I
Mhm.
don't prefer this. And just working through a lot of those things. And if somebody's not performing, again, having that black and white list of this is what needs to happen, here's the KPIs, and make it black and white so that the next check in, if they haven't done it, it can be very clear that that person's not performing.
I feel that. And I know you're the SOP queen. So I'm glad you mentioned that. But I guess other than or maybe it's only SOPs, well, what other systems and tools like do you have that are essential to streamlining this process and like just your business operations?
Okay, I love Monday, but I also want to add one other thing to that last comment is also a question I'll ask people was, did I give you what you needed to do your job? And that gives them a chance to say like, no, you didn't even tell me about how to use monday.com and you just expect me to do it. Or if they're like, yeah, then you can kind of know if they can't come up with anything that they're missing, then it's probably on them. But I love monday.com. It runs my acquisitions, my projects, property management. I have a property management system that's separate, but basically it organizes all my tasks, my due dates, who's doing it, when are they doing it, what's the priority, and I highly, highly, highly recommend.
Love that. Monday. And you know, and I know you said Google Drive for starting SOPs. Do you have, I think the biggest setback for people is that the time that it takes
Hmm.
to create the SOPs originally. And I know it's like, it's a lot of time in the beginning for saving a ton more time in the future. So it's a long-term
Right.
game. But do you have any tricks or tips for people
Yeah.
trying to cut back on that amount of time that it
If
takes?
you want to use AI, you could go to Chat GPT and just say, hey, write me an SOP outline for buying a property and start with that. You need to go back in and tweak it to your business because if you're buying off market, that looks a heck of a lot different than buying on market. So you have to put your own knowledge into that. You can also use Scribe AI. It'll like watch you do a video of something and then it can spit out an outline. But
Mhm.
the trick that I really like to do is when you're going to write an SOP, wait until you're doing that task. So let's say you're writing an SOP on paying your bills. Wait until you go to pay your bills and then start paying your bills and just transcribe what you're doing into the SOP, because then it doesn't feel like you're taking any more time out of your day to do it. You're doing it while you're accomplishing something. So it doesn't feel like I had to take 2 hours out of my day to sit and think about how to do this SOP. It's just take what's already in your head, what you already know, and dump it in there and use that to start.
Okay. And I feel like, isn't there an app that can record what you're doing and then transcribe it?
Yes, Scribe.ai will do that. You could also use Loom to take a video of yourself and have a VA transcribe it.
Mm-hmm.
Again, go through it, verify it, put your stamp of approval on it. But there's a lot of different tricks. You just got to get started, and it does not have to be perfect. I have so many SOPs that just have big old blank spots because I'm just like, I haven't gotten to that yet. That's
Mm-hmm.
still a little bit messy. I'm still figuring that out.
Big tip. Just get
Just
started.
get
'Cause
started.
it's like all the tricks and tips can help, but ultimately it's gonna take forever if you just never start.
It sure will take forever if you don't start.
And I guess what type of goals do you set for yourself when you were starting versus now?
So now I have my goals right here. It's taped
I love
down on
that.
4 sides, so I can't pull it off. But my goals for 2024 was 15 flips and 15 rentals, which was a pretty big goal. I'm at 12 flips and 6 rentals, which I think is still pretty good. I am really not that great at goal setting, but when I finally wrote that goal out and taped it up to my wall, I look at it every freaking day and it helps. It took me so many years just to like put an actual goal up on my wall, and it made a huge difference just seeing it every day. But I'm bad at goal setting. I'll admit it.
Well, and I love that too because I've have you heard the saying that if you're reaching your goals aren't big enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Would you say, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think there's a fine line though between I like a goal and a stretch goal because I want to still be able to say I accomplished something. Like, yes, I
Right.
did that. But then definitely, like you said, push yourself.
Hmm. Okay. And then how do you ensure that your team is aligned with your goals? Do you share all this with them?
Okay, another great book, I actually have it right here, is Traction. My copy is very worn because I've read it a million times. It's by Gino Wickman. It's so old and used, but it helps you run your business. So like get your team together, do what's called casting your vision for 6 months, 3 years, 5 years. Do it with
Mhm.
your team. Anything goes, and just start there. And then traction, part of the EOS entrepreneurial operating system too, is about having rocks, which are just 90-day goals. So even
Mhm.
if they're super simple, set them with your team and make sure everybody's on the same page. And I also just feel like I have to say, I'm saying all these things. I'm not perfect. Like I did all of that EOS and vision casting 2 quarters ago, but I haven't done it yet for this quarter. So like I'm still learning, but I always teach, our students that it progress is better than perfection.
I love that. And do you, so when you say you do your quarterly meetings, so do you meet with your team only on like a quarterly basis?
I meet with my team, my project manager and my maintenance guy. I meet every week with them.
Okay.
As far as the quarterly stuff, in EOS, that's called an L10 meeting, meaning you're getting out of the day to day. You're going to level 10, the big business goals. And that's quarterly for us to sit down and set those big
Hmm.
things and not talk about what do we have to do today.
Hmm. Okay. And I know Bree previously asked you, what is your 3 to 5 year goal with all of this?
Oh, great question. 3 to 5 year goal. I would love to have another arm of my flipping business that's maybe a GC or junk removal or some sort of other business, but I'm in the box where I'm really just truly 1 or 2 days a week in the business and I have operators running the business for me. I also would love to probably in 10 years start a nonprofit for like single mothers with young children that can maybe have like free housing for a year in order to get their life on track. So that's a super loose 10-year goal that I've always had in the back of my head.
Oh, I love that. And when and I think goals are important because it helps drive you too. But I love that you said you wanted to be able to step out of your business more. So does that mean, because I know you said there are certain days where you put on certain hats. When you say that, are you saying that you never want to have to put on the hat again, like be completely out of it entirely? Or,
I'm thinking I can put on the hat like once a
okay.
week. I don't want to be in the day to day where I'm getting phone calls and doing the firefighting. I'd love to get to the point where I have an operator doing that and
Mhm.
I'm making those big business decisions like, are we going to go this direction or that direction? So I'm not
Mhm.
in the day to day, completely out of the day to day.
Okay. And I know you said you wanted to, create another section for the flipping, but I guess team wise, who's your next hire?
Good question. I really need just an assistant who can do a little bit of property management, a little bit of project management, and a little bit of admin. But I'm at the point where I have enough for like a 1/3 time person. And I think I'm going to wait until I have at least like a part time, 20 to 30 hours a week,
Mm-hmm.
until I hire a full time person, just so that I can really make sure I've got the right person who's full time. That's another, I think, lesson I've learned is part time people are really hard because it's not their number one priority.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Love that. Well, listen up, people. You might be posting a job next
Yeah.
year.
Yes. Well, you would have to be in Cedar Rapids,
Oh, okay.
Iowa. So
Okay.
if
Gotta be
anybody wants
local.
to move to Cedar Rapids, Iowa and be a part of my team, you let me know. Be a
It's a
pretty
great
kick ass team.
opportunity.
Yes.
And then I guess as we wrap up some of the things that you said before too, Brie asked what your favorite 3 podcasts and 3 books are. I know 2 of them, Profit First and Traction.
Okay.
You got another one?
10x is easier than 2x by Dan Sullivan. That is the one book that I actually, you know, a lot of books have like work matching workbooks or like prompts at the end.
Hmm.
That book, I actually did every single prompt in real time, and it was incredible. And then podcasts, obviously, I love the WIIRE podcast, Women Invest in Real Estate, because I run it. And Amelia and I just shoot the shit and talk about our businesses and the behind the scenes. But I love, I don't listen to a lot of real estate podcasts, I'll be very honest. I love the Jenna Kutcher podcast, and I
Hmm.
love true crime.
Ah. I feel like behind every entrepreneur is a true crime podcast or show. I feel like I'm the only one who just can't. I get nightmares. I
Yeah.
can't do it.
Okay, another one I really like is Armchair Expert with Dax Shepard. That's a good one.
Okay, armchair expert. What is that about?
The,
Armchair.
do you know who Dax Shepard is? Married to Kristen Bell. He was in like Baby Mama, Punked.
Oh, okay, I think
If
so. I'm bad with
you
names, but
Googled
I
him,
see
you
the
would know.
face. Yeah.
You would know who he was if you Googled him. But he just has on like super famous guests, and they just go like super deep into everything. And his whole shtick is like, I'll analyze you from my armchair. Like I'm an armchair expert. Like he's not an expert, but they just get really deep into things and talk about. It's like listening to therapy. It's honestly crazy, paired with just crazy ass stories from all these famous people.
Whoa! How have I not heard of this
It's
before?
really, really good. I'm obsessed. I'm right in the middle of the Matthew McConaughey episode, and he has some wild stories.
All right, I'm excited. I know what I'm listening to today.
Yeah,
Thank you for
it's so
that.
good.
And then, what advice would you give a building an investor building a brand or reputation as a CEO in real estate
Oh,
investing?
I love it. Build your know, like, and trust factor so that you can get brand recognition to build your business. I use a free Facebook page to advertise my real estate business, and it works wonders. And then when it comes to building yourself up as the CEO, it goes back to those micro decisions every day of slowly making small steps towards being the head of your business and truly running your business and not letting your business run you. Because you
Hmm.
bet that my business ran me for 2 years until I figured it out.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And so I guess like when you're making these micro decisions though, to kind of dive deep into like your mental process when you're doing this, how did you have the confidence to make these micro decisions in the beginning?
I think moving away, I kind of was forced to. So, like, for example, hiring my project manager, that's definitely not a micro decision, but I had to have the confidence to do that because it was super scary.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just looked black and white at my business. I'm like, I've done this by myself. If I could have somebody who's for 40 hours a week dedicated to this, do I think they would at least make their salary back? And I was like, yes, because I broke it down. I reverse engineered it. I'm like, I would need to do 3 projects, 3 flips for them to break even on my investment to them. Can I do that? Absolutely. And then as far as confidence on a daily level is you almost don't have to have it because it's the micro decisions. It's just that almost doing the little things first is
Mm-hmm.
what in turn builds your confidence and starts to normalize like, oh no, I have a process. Oh no, I delegate that. Oh no, this is not how I run my business.
Okay. And now, should people start looking at, becoming like a better CEO in their business only if they're looking to scale, or is this process for people who just have a few rentals as well?
Good question. And I meant to give this example earlier with SOPs. Anybody should becoming the CEO of your business is true if it's you or you and 100 people. It looks differently, but the concepts are the same. Be organized, be streamlined, be proactive, not reactive. So I always give the example, let's say that you have 1 rental property and you rent it, you listen to the podcast, you figure out how to list it and rent it and do the lease and all of that. Then that tenant, and you don't write anything down. That tenant stays there for 7 years. They're the best tenants you've ever had. Real estate seems so easy. They move out. Well, it was 7 years ago you rented it. You cannot remember for the life of you how the heck, where you listed it. Did you have application fees? Did you do credit checks? Where did I list it? Did I do walkthroughs or an open house? You have to completely relearn that because you never wrote it down. You never wrote an SOP. So even if you have 1 rental, write stuff down, get organized, have your information in a ready to use, easy to access format. And then that basic will explode, that foundation will explode with you if you do reach 10 rentals, 20, 100.
Mhm. Wow. Thank you. And I guess, it's so funny because when we were at the Invested conference, Brian Lubin said something that, you're a great integrator and that he was like a dreamer. And I was wondering, do you feel like there's a difference in the two, or do you feel like either one is a great CEO and does either of them have to hire out differently?
So this is gonna sound crazy, but I am not an integrator. I am the harebrained, wild ideas, let's do it yesterday.
I love that.
Where I do get a lot of satisfaction in that dopamine loop is figuring out how to do something the right way once.
Mm,
I cannot do the details day in and day out.
mm,
But again, I said my zone of genius is frameworks. Somebody else needs to execute the framework, the integrator. But I can put it in a way that makes sense and can be followed. So once I create the SOPs, that's really so that I don't ever have to think about it again. And I can hand it off to somebody else so I can keep focusing on the big ideas.
mm,
I think it sounds counterintuitive, but I am not a perfectionist. That's why half my SOPs are not complete. They never will be complete. They're living, breathing documents. I
mm.
am not somebody who's crazy focused on the details. I have terrible attention to detail. That's again why I need SOPs because it tells me exactly what to do and where to look because otherwise I'll forget. But I am definitely a visionary. Like last night, I couldn't sleep because I had so many ideas rattling around in my head. And I was like, I got to chill out and go to bed.
That's so funny. I know. I definitely feel like you're a dreamer, but it's cool because I feel like there's such a huge lesson in that. I feel like people think of themselves when they think of themselves as dreamers, they feel like they either just immediately need to hire out everything else or they're a mess. They can't put those dreams into action.
Mhm.
But you have fooled everyone into thinking that like you're this like I would have never guessed you are not a detail oriented
No,
person.
I
Like
terrible
that's
details.
crazy.
Yep.
But it's like something that I feel like everyone needs to do. It's like you can be a dreamer, but you also have to be willing to do all the work in the beginning to set yourself up, right? I mean, if a dreamer is an architect and they want to create this beautiful, house or project, like you still need all the
Yeah.
blueprints, to be able to create that. And that's what you're doing. You're creating your blueprints and you're building it from scratch. And I love that.
Yeah.
It's a huge lesson. Everyone needs to do that.
Yeah. My goal now is, now that I have a team of great people who are integrating for me, is how do I empower them to recognize how to improve systems and how to improve something that we do and write their own SOPs, so I can just look at it and be like, yeah, that makes sense. And now they're the ones behind the scenes getting everything going, and I'm out here, dreaming up a storm. So
Yes.
that's the next level that I'm trying to shift into.
Awesome. You are a boss dreamer. That's what you are. That's incredible.
Thank you.
And then I guess as we wrap up, I mean, I know you've dropped so many golden nuggets today, so thank you so much again for coming on and sharing all this with us. But is there anything, I guess, when people are walking away from this, I guess, one, how can they learn more from you? And two, what's like one thing you absolutely want someone to take away from this?
You can all reach out to me. If you're seeing this, you can see my Instagrams, shoot me a message. Happy to help. Um, the one thing I want you all to walk away with is create one SOP or one time block today. Take 20 minutes. That is not that hard. Just do one action step if you're listening to this. And if you want more information on all of these building blocks, what we call CEO foundations at WIIRE, we have that in our WIIRE community, and we'd love to help you.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about the WIRE community? I know you just launched it. Congratulations, by the way. Can you tell us a little bit about what people can expect if they, were to join?
Yes, so our WIIRE community is, the doors are open for another, I think, till the 19th. If you have any questions, reach out. I can send you information. But it kicks off, it's a membership, and it kicks off with the CEO framework, which goes into all these topics we've been talking about. The first one is systems and processes, then it's profitability pulse, landlord legal, and insurance, and then raising private money. And we're really teaching people, how do you get all the systems and foundations in your business so that you can take off and scale. And all the women in our community are incredible, very experienced. I think 66% of them have more than 5 doors, which is incredible. And so now they're at the point where it's like, I got to figure out how to run my business. I know how to buy a rental. How do I run my business in a way that's going to help me leverage my other skills and continue to build wealth? So that's the WIIRE community. Lots of other information on the website, womeninvestinrealestate.com.
Mhm.
If you have any questions, I'd love to answer.
Yeah, and so what type of like training is it? Is it a course? Are there live calls, meetings weekly?
It's a membership, so it's live calls, and it
Okay.
starts off with that course, the CEO framework, which is four
Okay.
weeks, and we do it all together. And then and then the second phase of the community has hot seats, strategy cohorts,
Okay.
inside scoops, lots of fun events.
Gotcha. Is the CEO framework the same thing as the CEO boot camp,
The
or is it different?
CEO boot camp is a much more intense version of the
Mhm.
CEO framework that has a bigger scope. The CEO framework is 4 of the 6 CEO foundations that we cover in CEO boot camp. So
Got it. Okay.
it's a mini
What are the
version
other
of it.
two? Okay.
But
Got it.
but if you are, yeah, if you have like even 2 or 3 rentals and you're like, I want to do this full time someday, or I want to scale this, you've got to figure that shit out. And you really need to do our CEO framework inside the WIIRE community membership.
Hmm. That sounds incredible. I'm definitely gonna check it
Yeah.
out.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much again for coming on. Is there anything that we, I guess, didn't cover or that you wanted to add before we clock it? I'm saying clock out, tune out.
I think the only thing I want to say is all these things I talked about, I figured out through trial and error. I did not, I was not born knowing this. I did not start my business knowing these things. I figured them out because I messed stuff up and I did things wrong and I burnt out. And so I hope that you will take the shortcut and just learn from everything I've put together in these CEO frameworks and all of that other stuff so you don't have to do it. But also know, if I figured it out, a girl from small town Iowa, you can figure it out.
Yes, mic drop. And you, and you know what I love? I mean, one of my favorite things about you too is that you just you didn't have someone to look up to as you were going through this journey, so you went out and became that person.
Hmm.
And that is just shows so how strong you are and how much, I mean, you have such a bright future ahead of you, and I'm
Oh.
so excited to see. You are just like I know you said it's not like this, but like I know you're gonna do that. So you, yeah, always going up, and I'm just so excited to see everything you're gonna do and follow your journey. And thank you so much again for coming on. And I know everyone enjoyed this. I know I did. And I can't wait to catch up with you again soon.
Well, same to you, Miranda. I'm excited to see everything you accomplish. Thanks for having me, and
Thank
this was
you.
fun.
Thank you. All right, bye guys. Thank you
Bye.
for tuning in.